Hey everyone, Brandon here from TruckSafe. In a prior video, we discussed some of the top fleet compliance metrics that all trucking companies should be watching, one of which is their accident rate. Accident rates are important for many reasons, not the least of which is that they can significantly impact the results of a DOT audit. Accident rates, how to calculate them, and how they're used is what we're discussing in this video, so stick around and hit those like and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. There's no shortage of ways motor carriers can find themselves sideways with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration or its state law enforcement partners. Serious accidents, driver complaints, and violations from roadside inspections are just a few things that can trigger an FMCSA audit. And as we've discussed in past videos, bad audits can have serious consequences, including a fleet-wide shutdown. What's more, poor safety performance is often the driving force in nuclear verdicts against motor carriers after a bad accident. For these reasons alone, it's imperative that trucking companies know precisely what their fleet compliance metrics are saying about them. There are, of course, lots of metrics out there, including CSA scores, out-of-service rates, ISS scores, and the list goes on and on. But the one I want to focus on now is the accident rate, which is expressed as the number of DOT-recordable accidents the carrier has incurred per million miles that its vehicles have traveled. In the audit context, a carrier's accident rate is important because the FMCSA considers it, along with any violations discovered, to calculate the carrier's safety rating. The industry average accident rate for most carriers is 0.74 DOT-recordable accidents per million miles traveled. According to the FMCSA's safety rating methodology, a carrier with an accident rate of more than 1.5 accidents per million miles for non-urban carriers, or 1.7 accidents per million miles for urban carriers over the course of a 12-month period will fail that portion of the audit, which could lead to a downgraded safety rating and the consequences that come with it. So how exactly do you calculate your accident rate? Fortunately, it's pretty simple. To calculate your accident rate, FMCSA compares the number of DOT-recordable accidents reported by the carrier on its accident register for the past 12 months to the mileage its fleet has traveled over that same time period, which is typically listed on the carrier's biennial MCS 150 filing. A couple of key points here. First, we are only concerned about DOT-recordable accidents for this calculation. What is that? A DOT-recordable accident is defined in the motor carrier safety regulations as one involving a commercial motor vehicle that results in either a fatality, personal injury to any person that requires immediate medical attention away from the scene, or disabling damage to any vehicle that requires it to be towed away from the scene. In other words, more serious accidents. If it doesn't fall into one of those three categories, then it's not DOT recordable and would not factor into your accident rate. Okay, another key point here is how we calculate mileage. For purposes of the accident rate, it's important that we consider the cumulative mileage traveled by the motor carrier's commercial motor vehicles over the same 12-month time frame from which we are deriving the accidents. How do we calculate mileage? Well, most carriers use the mileage that they are tracking for fuel tax reporting purposes, but there are several ways, including through your ELD system. In the audit context, investigators are usually inclined to use the annual mileage that you've reported on your MCS 150 report. So let's walk through an example. In this case, we're looking at a carrier's safety measurement system account to take stock of how many DOT recordable accidents they've had in the past year. Now, SMS is not always a great place to look for the total number of DOT recordable accidents. As a fleet, you really should be keeping track of those on your own internal accident register that covers the past 3 years. But for purposes of this example, this is the easiest way for me to get access to that info. So looking here, I see that this carrier has had 2 recordable accidents in 2022. If I then view the carrier's registration details in SMS, I see that it lists 4.7 million miles traveled by its commercial vehicles that same year. So to calculate this carrier's accident rate, I simply take the number of DOT recordable accidents, multiply that by 1 million, and then divide that total by the mileage. So here, the 2 recordable accidents times 1 million equals 2 million, and then divide 2 million by 4.7 million miles, and that equals an accident rate of 0.42 accidents per million miles. In this example, that accident rate is great. It's well under the national average, not to mention the unsatisfactory rate that's used in an audit. So that's it. That's how you calculate your accident rate if you're a regulated fleet, and that's going to wrap things up for this video. Keeping tabs on your accident rate, along with other critical safety metrics like CSA scores and out-of-service rates, and working to improve them will go a long way to keeping you out of the crosshairs, both of the DOT and the plaintiff's bar. For even more in-depth discussions on DOT regulatory topics like this, be sure to check out our innovative online courses for safety managers and for drivers over at trucksafeacademy.com. And to stay up to date on the latest highway transportation news and analysis, be sure to subscribe to our newsletter over at trucksafe.com and follow us on our various social media channels. Thanks for watching.